Shalom, Lord Christ, Israel's priest and also a 500 Kataba, the ISUPK Detroit, back with another Lashawan Qadash class, of course, every Friday, starting at 7 o'clock. Just so you know, we had our Passover on the 20th. You know, we seen the hate in the comments, talking about what we was doing at the Passover, who we had at the Passover. Yeah, we seen the hate. That wasn't even at our Passover. That was at our party, our black party. So shout out to everybody who made it to the black party. You know, Israel, we turn up righteously. You know, where there's no law, there's no sin. But so for all you hypocrites who feel that we're out the way, go read the Bible and find out what Christ did. Who did Christ go sit with? He went and sat with the publicans and the sinners. So if you talking smack about who we keep in our company, and then the people who keep and we influence them in a positive way, I think you're just being a hypocrite. So last week we ended out translating Hakash to power, one of the prayers that we say every Saturday for our Lashawan Sabbath service, Salakia. And we're going to finish that up. But what I'm going to do, we're going to finish up that portion of it, but we're going to do it in an in-depth way, a more in-depth way. So what I want to do is highlight, of course, your prefixes and your suffixes. So we're going to be doing a little practice with that. So, of course, everybody should know what a preposition is and our prepositions. They should know what a preposition is and our prepositions. I might be able to throw them on the board if we have time, so you can use them as a reference. But if not, as we go through them, you'll see them highlighted. So what is a preposition? It sits before a noun, and it shows a noun's relation to another word in the sentence. So it sits before a noun, and it shows relation to another word in that particular sentence. So what I'm going to do is go back over to the Hakash to power prayer, and we're going to put that on the board, and we're going to see if we can identify those prepositions and suffixes. I guess I can give you the definition to what, or the understanding to what a suffix is real quick. A suffix, or what we would call a possessive adjective, is a word that describes a noun giving ownership. So it describes a noun giving ownership, and it sits behind the root word. And notice I said root word and not noun, because some of the times it doesn't necessarily have a noun, but it's that root word. And you can throw in the chat if that's something that you need me to write on the board. I'll take the time and do it. But if you're watching it on a phone, your computer, laptop, one of the things that you can definitely do is pause it. Go back, rewind. Of course, like, share, and subscribe. So Hakash to power starts off with Yahweh, which is the Most High's name, by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and throw them on the board, and we'll go over the prepositions. So that way you'll see it. All right, so what a Salakia, a little marker dead. Let me get the prefixes on the board. Prefix. So your prefixes are I, which means I or I am. Ba, which is in. Da, which means do. Ha, which is the. Wa, which is and. Ya, which is he. Ka is as or like. La is to or for. Ma is of or from. Sha is whom, which, pertaining to, and your tha is your the, which is kind of like the understanding of you. So there you have your prefixes. You have your I, which is I, ba, in, I is do, ha is the, y is and, ya is he, ka is as or like, la is to or for, ma is of or from, sha is whom or which, and tha is the. So going over, and I'll put right next to it the suffix. I'll put it in a different color. You have your ya, which is your my, your ka, which is your you or your. You have your wa, which is your he, his, or it. Ha, which is your her. Your nawa, which equals our or means our. Kam is the masculine plural version of y'all. And Khan is the feminine plural of y'all. And then you have Ma and Na, which is your masculine of there and your feminine of there. So there you have your prefixes and your suffixes. Like I said before, I didn't finish writing that word. Your suffix sits after the root word. So just for a quick notation, At the top, I'm gonna just write before, after. So what we're gonna move into now is the actual prayer, and let's see if we can identify some root words, some prefixes, and some suffixes. So, like I said, the prayer starts off with Yahweh, which is the Most High's name, by Hashem, which is in the name, which we covered last week. So, I want to kind of progress from where we left off at. We left off at the first Hakach. Um, Yahweh Shah, which is the name of Christ, Baba Kushah, which means in request. That Ba means in. You'll see it identified right there. And Kushah, Ba Kushah is that request. Moving on, you have Nathan Lanawa. Nathan Lanawa. Nathan means to give. That's the root word or the word to give. La is two or four, and then you have nawa, which is that preposition, which means our or us. So we're asking the Most High to give to us. What are we asking to give? Power, which is hakach. I'm gonna try to write it as neat. And what I'm gonna do today is just actually write it in the Assyrian because I feel like I'm pretty comfortable writing it in the ancient or the paleo. And I need more practice with the Assyrian. So I would suggest you do the same. But if you aren't comfortable with both, go ahead and write them in both. That's what I usually do. But for room's sake on the board, we just gonna put the one up there. So that would be your Hakach in Hebrew. The Assyrian, you have your Ha, your Ka, and your Ha. You gotta put a little extra on it. Pause. Next word is La Rapa'ah. So you have La, Ra, Pa, Ah. And notice I wrote it like that on purpose so you can see to try to well no, it kind of looks stupid, so I'm gonna change it. I just explain it. So we want to make sure that we pronunciate the pa and the ah, and we just don't say la pa, la ra pa. It's la ra pa ah. which means to heal. And you see the la in front of it. You go over here, you look at your prefixes, you find where la is. That means two or four. And you see that precedes the word heal. So you have your la, your ra, your pa, and your ah. The next word is kal makala. Kal ma ka la, which means all sickness. So kal means all, and makala means sickness. So we're here, we're asking the Most High to give us the power to heal all sickness. And I'm going to write this right below it. So notice at the end of this word, the end of the word is la, or pronounced la instead of la ah. And the reason for that is because the last character is actually a ha. And those two are connected. The la and the ha are connected. In the ancient Hebrew, you'll see a notation at times, the la and the ha connected, which will indicate that you're actually supposed to drop one of the A's and just add that last character. The next word is wakel madawa. Madawa. So in the Hebrew, you have your wa, kel, and then you have your ma, the wa. Again, notice that the da, the ra, some of the characters in the area look very similar to just like a seven. So when you're writing them out, make sure that you're able to write them out in a way that you can distinguish. Also, be able to read and understand when other people write the different words or characters that way as well. The next word is hakach. So what are we saying here? Starting from the top, hakach the power. We were asking the Most High to give us the power to heal all manner of sickness and all disease. You have hakach, which we're further asking for the power. Latahar, which means to cleanse. The next word or line or phrase would be Hamatazar Yum. Salakia Hamatazar Re Yum, which means the leopards. And no, I'm not saying the leopards like the animal, the cat, the lepers. That was a disease that some people have today that will make them clean. They'll have maybe their skin changes colors. They might get some boils on the skin, and they had to be um, outcast or quarantined from the rest of the people. All right, so you have your ha, ma, tazar, yum. I mean, re yum. Salakia. So, two things that I want to point out here. You see these two characters; they both look similar to a Y. Um, this particular character, notice that the hook end goes to the right and it swings left, and this one pretty much goes straight down. So, if you see those characters, that's how you differentiate the two. Also, we went over a couple classes that we have certain characters. There's about five, six characters in the alphabet that when they appear at the end of a word, or I mean at the end of a sentence, um, this would it would actually be different than what you would normally see it in any other placement of the word or sentence. So yum here, you see Hamatazar, the ma right here looks like this. And now at the end of the word, it's scripted like that. So I remember just to give I guess, tell a story about a learning curve that I had when I first started getting into the language. I'm trying to read certain scripts, and I come across these words, and I see a character, and I forced it to mean something else, or I forced it to be something else because I didn't know that rule. I'm thinking, well, maybe this script just wrote it like this, so it kind of looks like maybe they're just saying this, and that wasn't the actual character. It wasn't until I read something so simple, Salakia, so simple. I'm gonna see if I can show you guys. So right here on our alphabet sheet that we have for the school, it tells you right here that use these letters if above fall at end of word. and those were always right under the alphabet. And I never paid attention to it. So when I finally read it, it clicked and made sense. And it's like, oh, that's why they wrote it like that. That's what that character is. That's what that word is. Because I'm trying to find a word and I'm putting in characters and I'm writing out this word and it doesn't exist because I had the wrong character. And that one's back goes back to me not knowing the basics, which is the in-depth understanding of how we constructed our alphabet. I know most people will you'll hear us say that the language is very brutish. Um, I can see how they would come to that understanding or to that idea, but at the same time, that might be for those individuals that's not of our culture. Our culture um, makes this language to me very complex, like it's coded. Like we speaking codes here with this language that we created. So I might ask the individual. I remember Katas, I gave this example. He was dealing with a brother that wasn't of the nation, Salakia. He was dealing with a heathen that wasn't of the nation. And he asked him, what comes to your mind when I say these words? You know, cheese, cheddar, you know, different words that we would use for money. And the individual just thought he was talking about food. Right. And that's one of those cultural differences and why we have our own language and understanding and the Bible is written just as such. I remember when I was of a certain mindset, I read a scripture that said, and all the stars of heaven shall fall to earth. Well, guess what's happening now? All the stars of heaven are falling to earth. And what do we call stars? The scripture wasn't talking about the literal stars that are those exploding balls of gases in space. They're talking about your Bill Cosby's, your P. Diddy's, your Jay-Z's, all your stars that are being hit with these scandals. These are your stars. They're falling to the earth. They're falling. You see the scandals coming out. Every day it's more gossip, more gossip, more gossip. And in some instance, more truth. More truth, more truth. You know, I mean, your sin can't stay hidden forever. It's gonna come out. And sometimes the higher you get, the harder to fall. So you look at individuals like Jay-Z and Puff Daddy, and they having those billionaire parties, and they in their head, they're on top of the world. Well, they're on top of the world that their oppressor or their handler let them control, which is our idea, which is us. Because they have all the money. They do all the things that we want to do. They have all the cars. But that can easily be taken just with one scandal. You can easily be locked up. How do you go from spending anything, buying anything you want at any time? And they got so arrogant that they started to buy people. They weren't just buying jewelry. Now they're buying little boys and little girls. Now you're going to be locked up in prison. 3 hots in a cot. Now you got to ask to go to the bathroom. Now you can't tell people to walk from New York to Philadelphia or something like that to get you a cheesecake in the middle of the night. Now you got to ask somebody when to walk. Sir, can I go to the yard? Can I walk around? The Most High is a chess player. All right, so let's keep going. I'm not going to try to fit one more on the board. Get this erased. So, just as a recap, you have Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Babu Kushah, which is you're asking, you're saying the name of the Most High in the name of Yahweh, which is Christ, Babu Kushah in request, give to us Nathan Lanawa, um, Hakach, which is the power to heal, La Rapa'ah. La would be your prefix, which means to. Rapa'ah is your root word to heal. Kel Makala, which is all sickness. And if you ever look at words, sickness, the actual Mikel Kala and Wakel Madawa, the word for sickness and disease is actually the same, or for that understanding. And then you have Mikel Madawa, which is all disease. And then we moved on to Hakach, the power to cleanse the lepers. You had your La, which was your prefix, which means to. Tahar, which means cleanse. And then the last where we ended off was Hamatazarium, which means the leopards. That was a particular sickness. The next line was Hakach, the power. What are we asking the Most High now for the power for? Which is Lahaquayim. Which is to raise who are we asking the power to raise? Is Hamathium. All right, so what I just did was actually pronounce that word wrong. Fluently, it didn't sound like it. I said Hamathium, but it's Hamathium, just like the name Tazariak isn't Tazariak, it's Tazaryak. Uh, which means the dead. There you go. Ha, which is your preposition, which means the. And then we have power again, Salaki. Ow, which is over. Rakawath. Ra. Ra. Kawath, which means spirits. The next word is Hatama'ala, which means the unclean, which is ha ta ma. And the last word, well, we're going to stop right here for a minute just to identify a couple things real quick. So, as you see here, all these that's in red are clearly your prepositions. So you have your la, you have your ha. Um, so it's no difference when we said ba Hashem in, which was ba ha the name Shem, which is your root in the name. Those are your prepositions. So when you memorize these and you see them, you don't type in this whole word thinking you're going to get this particular word because it's actually two different words. The root word is moth. So the dead um is ha, which is the moth would be the word for dead, but you're making it plural, so you add the yum. Because we're not asking the Most High just to raise one dead person, but multiple dead people. Like we're the walking dead out here. So going back to the top, well, I'm gonna put that last line up there. I'm gonna just move it over to the side a little bit. So like here. You have your la gar a shun, which means to. No, I'm not gonna add that right. use with the word that's already up there. So I'm gonna just erase these. Just started at the time. Which means to cast. So Lagar Shun in the Hebrew, you have your La, Ga, Ra, Sha. Nah. Lagar Shun. Oh, Salakia. And they were asking them to cast them out in the name. So you have your Shun. Which of course your ba and your ha are prefixes. Ba, in, ha. The shum simply means name. So in the name. Who are we asking to do it in the name of? Yah, Yahawashai, which is of Christ. Yahawashai. And then Thawada Amen, which means Thawada is thank you. You have your Thawada. And of course, Aman has nothing to do with Aman, Ra, anything phonetically suspect. Pause. And all of that. No Diddy. Aman means just so be it. There you have it. So there you go. There you have the whole Hakasha Power prayer. So now when you're actually at your service and you're saying the actual prayer, you have a little bit more in-depth understanding of what you're actually saying. You can work on your pronunciations of it now because you know the breaks, what they mean, the prefixes and the suffixes. Slowing it down, you will be able to identify, like we pointed out, it's not Tazar Riyak, it's Tazar Yak. But sometimes when you just repeat stuff and you just say it, you don't really pronunciate it correctly. So that's what we aim to achieve in this class. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and close out. I gotta be at the sleigh, unfortunately. So we're gonna give a courtesy salute to the teacher, Min Israel Amajim, Amajim Shabbat, Amajim Barak, Yahaba Shem Yahweh Shabarakatah. Yajamata. Dismissed.